Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And Mr. Westbrook hit the triple-double last night, Coach.
He did.
Not much drama. It ended up being in that third quarter. Congratulations to our contest winners. We're reaching out today to Art and Trey. And he put on another show.
He did, man. And I don't know if people realize how historic it is, especially, I guess, younger guys and gals, because, I remember watching NBA when I was very, very small. Now, I'm not old enough to remember watching Oscar Robertson play, just a little bit before my time. But I used to, my dad and I were basketball fanatics, just like Dawson and I are now. And we talked a lot of sports. And he always said to me the two streaks that would never be broken were DiMaggio's hit streak and Oscar Robertson's 3-point total, triple double total. And I said, oh, you never know, Dad, you never know. But to the fact that it was 47 years in the making, and he broke this. I really, truthfully don't. Now I'm like my dad, but I don't think we're going to see anybody break that record. I mean, if you look at LeBron, he's played a billion games. He's getting towards the end of his career. He doesn't even have half what Westbrook has. That just goes to show you how much ahead. And if you even factor in somebody young like Luka, there's just no way he'd have to average triple doubles for seasons upon seasons. So
No faith in Luka to track him down. He's so young.
Way. He isn't going to do it.
Dirk is still smiling back there. I'm surprised.
Dirk knows. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Luka can get possibly to third. That's the highest ceiling that's any normal human being can get. I don't think anybody's going to catch Russ or Big O. I think third is like the premium spot you can get. So
I think Luka has a chance as long as he doesn't get thrown out with extra technicals.
He's going to miss obstacle. Too many. Can't punch people in the nuts, man. What are you trying to do?
Come on, Luka.
Jeez. You know what though? This is going to sound really selfish, but I can't help it. He got suspended for the game today, which means he's going to be fresh and rested for a big game tomorrow, which Dawson and I are going to be at. So we get to see Luka magic.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys. That is tomorrow. This is a front end for Dallas. Yep. And but did he he's not actually suspended yet, is he? Because it was a flagrant, not a technical, when he got ejected. So I think he's still good to go tonight.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought he was suspended for this game.
I'm looking at his note on FanDuel. It doesn't indicate that he's out tonight.
All right. With my luck, it's going to be reviewed. They'll decide today, and it'll be tomorrow he has to sit.
Yeah.
Well, we will see how that goes. I know Porzingis is out, but there were also rumors he may play tomorrow on the second night of a back-to-back. So we'll see.
That'd be fun.
I know. And then Ingram has the possibility of playing tomorrow. We're probably not going to see Zion again, which we were chasing, but I'd be happy. I'd be very comfortable seeing, Lonzo, Ingram, and then of course Luka. That'd be a fine day. So
Absolutely.
We'll see how that goes.
Well, we'll hit that one
just
tomorrow.
Chirping along here like it's nothing. We only have 11 games.
Yeah, only 11. I mean, it's the last week of the regular season in COVID 2021, so we've got a full slate. 8 of the 22 teams involved in a back-to-back. 3 totals over 230. We start at 7 o'clock tonight, Coach, on the East Coast. So get us started.
Let's do it. And we're going to briefly touch on when we're going over each game because it's very important. This final week, we'll do this the rest of this week until the last games on Sunday, is just give you a brief touch of where the teams stand because some of the teams are clinched, some have been eliminated, and there's a group in the East and West that are still battling either for a spot or the positioning in the seeding, and everybody's trying to avoid that play-in 7 through 10. So in this first game, you've got the Denver Nuggets and the Charlotte Hornets. Denver right now is sitting at 4th, 1 game behind the Clippers, so they're going to either finish 3rd or 4th. Not too stressful of a game. I'm sure they, rather finish third, but it's not like they got to put the pressure on to win this one. But Charlotte, on the other hand, is right in the battle. They are eighth, and they're 2 games behind Boston and 1 game ahead of Indiana and Washington. So Charlotte needs to win. So they're going to be given a little bit more on this one. Again, Denver's a 6.5 point road favorite, 219.5 over under. Pace not good, 24 Denver, 17 Charlotte. Defensive efficiency somewhat middle of the road, with Denver 15th and Charlotte 19th. And then we have a Q tag on Monte Morris, who may get to see the floor here. He's been out. And on the Charlotte side, we have Cody Martin already listed out. So the other Martin becomes a little playable here. And then the important news would be Devontae Graham. He's flat out questionable. So we got to follow what's going to happen in that game. And, also, we had some Aaron Gordon news the last game, but this game he is probable. So I think we'll probably see the Campazzo, Rivers, Gordon, Porter Joker lineup against Ball, Rozier, McDaniels, Washington, and Biombo. Both teams have gone with those lineups a little bit here this past week. Interesting game here. I know Charlotte needs to win it. Rozier's coming off an absolute monster the last go around. Especially if Graham sits, Rozier definitely becomes in play. LaMelo is looking good. I know that wrist is still not 100%, but he's certainly someone you have to consider. After that, though, McDaniels is up and down, and he gets Gordon defense probably. Porter Jr. is always in question as a possibility for me. Just in these recent games, he's shooting the ball well. But again, with Denver not having to push it to the limit, this game just doesn't really excite me that much, other than the Charlotte backcourt. And a lot of that depends on Devontae news.
Yeah, that is crucial. I'm a little more interested on Denver here, if anyone. Rivers on DraftKings is cheap if he starts again and Morris is not playing. But if Morris plays, I'm going to fade those guards. I also like Porter Jr. on FanDuel. Today he's 7,100.
I thought that was fair.
Yeah, that's fair. And then if JaMychal Green starts again in the low 3K, mid 3K range, he's playable as a fill-in here. Fill out the roster.
He should sit with Gordon coming back, I would assume.
Right. So if Gordon is in, then we're going to pass that as well. And then for me, it's Porter Jr. or nothing, most likely.
Me too.
All right, game 2. It's also at 7:00.
Nope, not even a mention for Charlotte?
Nope, not today.
Wow.
Nope.
Poor Hornets. All right.
Yep, the fighting Fakus and fighting Joe Stantons are going to be too much for Charlotte.
And smother them, huh?
Yep. All right, Minnesota and Detroit, also at 7:00. And Timberwolves favored by 7.5 here, 227.5 total. And
that's got to be the most they've been favored all year. Got to be.
Well, here's the funny thing. There are 5 teams in the NBA that have either 20 or 21 wins, and these are 2 of them. So these are teams that you would think would want to be losing, and Detroit has done a better job of that than Minnesota. Minnesota has had a couple wins recently, and they're kind of playing with fire with adding some wins here at the end of the season. But I think Detroit they're obviously playing out the string. They got the whole crew out again. Minnesota, they're the wild card for me here out of these lower ranked teams. And then they have a lot less injury news. We've got Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who's questionable, and we have Jaden McDaniels is back in the mix as available.
Right.
On the Detroit side, here's the list, Coach. Corey Joseph, Diallo, Magruder, Ellington, Plumlee, and Grant out.
Jeez. And 2 questionables.
Questionables, Frank Jackson and Josh Jackson.
The 2/3 of the Jackson 5.
That's
also
right. That's right. So on the Minnesota side, it is you rolling the dice a little bit here, but D'Angelo Russell is the guy that I'm looking at primarily. I like how he's been playing lately in the 7K range. Detroit's defense is not good. They're 18th. So there's one guy you could look at. Edwards has been priced up probably a little bit too much for me. Cat, I'm not, he hasn't been playing huge minutes. So if anything, I'd go with Reed there as a backup. We know that the backup bigs have done really well against Detroit when Stewart starts because they just don't have much behind him.
No, Cook, I think, backs him up,
Yeah,
right?
Cook and Okafor a little bit.
Oh,
So it's probably D'Angelo Russell or pass for me on that side. And then with Detroit, I wouldn't mind one of these value plays. With all those guys out, Killian Hayes getting a great opportunity. He's a fair price. Saban Lee behind him got 32 minutes off the bench last game. He's a nice price tag, especially if one of those Jacksons is out. Then those guys are going to get a lot of opportunity. And it's a great pace-up game for them. Obviously, Minnesota's second in pace with an awful defense. So I don't mind one of the Detroit guards. And then Stewart is in consideration as well as a value play. But most interested in these guards here, Russell or one of the Detroit guys.
Yeah, this is a weird game for me. I spent a ton of time on this game last night and this morning because I still feel like it could be a key game. I agree 100% on what you were saying with Minnesota. It seems as though they're taking the approach of, here's what I would think their locker room conversation is. Listen, we're going to get whatever draft pick we get. We've got a great nucleus of young guys right here, which they do. They have a ton of guys 25 and under that are really good. And so I think they're wanting to say, let's finish strong, win games like Phoenix did last year at the end of the year, get some confidence, come back and just crush it next year. That's what you can just see that oozing from their players on the bench and everybody in there giving an effort, playing with an edge, with a chip. And I like that. That's something that Minnesota hasn't done in, 4 years maybe. So, to me, that puts D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and, an inexpensive Vanderbilt in play. Not quite as much on the Rubio side, and I agree with you on Towns. I don't think they're going to have to stretch him. Now, he could have a huge game if he plays big minutes, but my only concern here, Andrew, is that Minnesota may blow him out. I know, the spread is 6.5, which isn't bad. But, man, when you look at man for man, with Minnesota, possibly having nobody sit if Hernan Gomez plays, to Detroit having 7 of their top 8 players out, I mean, that really is the case because Saddiq Bey is the only guy that was in that top 7 for much of the season. And that's, assuming that all of these guys are out as stated. But I've been burned once this season. I checked it by Killian Hayes, once by Saban Lee, once by Josh Jackson, and once by Frank Jackson. So I've had 4 stings. None of them ever paid off for me. So I have made the decision that I will not be fooled a second time. And I am not taking any of the Detroit guards. But here's where I would like to possibly take maybe 2 of these guys. And it's Saddiq Bey, it's Doumbouya, who's been really terrific in this last 4 or 5 games, and then Isaiah Stewart, because he's a little expensive, but I still keep thinking he can have that monster game. But I'm not quite leaning as hard with him because of just constant foul trouble, and he's going to have to try to guard Cat, which is going to be not, great from the foul side. So Bey and Doumbouya are in play for me, and I'd love to come back on the other side with one of the, big dogs, Russell or Edwards, and then possibly a Vanderbilt value play. So very strange that a game where 2 teams have been eliminated, I just have a lot of interest in it. I think it can be a sleeper game that's going to go overlooked, and I'm going to have exposure.
Okay.
All right, the next one is 7:30 game. It's Miami at Boston, and sorry to hear about your Jaylen Brown.
Yeah,
man.
that was rough.
That's a terrible blow for them.
Crushing.
Yeah, that is. It is the first night of a back-to-back for Boston. Miami's -2. It's 225. You've got poor pace here. Miami's second slowest team in the league. Only the Knicks are slower. Boston doesn't exactly scorch up and down the court. They're 18th. Defensively, very respectable. Miami is 6th. Boston has hovered in the middle and then dropped down in the 20s. They're back up to 17, which is respectable. The center, Robert Williams, is doubtful. So, that's going to bring some guys into play a little bit more. And then, of course, we know Brown's out. Oladipo hasn't returned yet either for Miami. So, it looks like the regular five, Nunn, Robinson, Butler, Ariza, and Adebayo for Miami with a bunch of guys off the bench that could, get into some of those minutes, which now the Miami depth actually hurts us in DFS because there's going to be a lot more split minutes. The big question is, now that we know that Boston's going to be shorthanded the rest of the year without Brown, where does that usage go? We've seen it consistently go to Tatum, number one, and then Kemba when he plays, number two. And there's been games where Kemba is out as well, and then a lot of that floats to Smart. But right now, I would expect Tatum to get the most play here, but it's against Trevor Ariza and that tough Miami defense, and his price is so high. Plus, if you look at the situation here, this is a really important game, Andrew. You've got Miami is 2 games ahead of Boston to have to get into that play-in game. So if Miami beats Boston tonight, they're basically assured to not have to be in the play-in and finish 6th. So I think Miami comes out, looks at this like, listen, we have to have this game, then we can relax. So we'll have to watch. If they do win this one, the next couple of games, I think they'll rest some people for sure. But if they lose this game, all of a sudden, it's the rest of this week takes on a different meaning because Boston could bump them into that tournament. And that's the biggest stat we have to watch here in the standings is that 6-7 hole, because getting 6th locked in and you're not having to worry about the play-in tournament is a world of difference to being 7 through 10. And this is the first time they've ever done it in the NBA, but it is a big distinction. So, I think Miami comes out, plays super hard. Boston knows the same thing, especially shorthanded. They would love to get out of that play-in tournament. So I think this game is hotly contested. I think you get big minutes from all the guys if it stays close. I think it stays close. And, it makes people playable for me here. I don't quite want to spend top dollar for Tatum against this defense, but I'm tempted. But I do like Kemba or Marcus. I think, having some exposure there is really good. And then on the Miami side, you tell Jimmy Buckets you need one game to clinch and sort of take the week to get ready for the playoffs. I think Jimmy Buckets comes out and plays. And then you've got the second piece of this is Boston's bigs are so shorthanded. You got Tristan Thompson starting at center, and he's somewhat a pseudo 4 more than a 5 anymore. So Bam, who's been his stats are a little down this year, but this is the kind of game he can smash in. So, I know that, the total of 225 doesn't blow your socks off with several games in the 230s, but I think this game could be the highest contested game, not the highest scoring game. But for that reason, I'm going to think about buying up to either Butler or Bam and think about that mid-level play with Kemba or Marcus. And if things shuffle around throughout the day, Tatum's not completely out of play for me, although he will get, some Butler defense.
I think it could be highly contested. I'm more interested in Miami's potential here, but I don't like the guard rotation with everybody healthy, like you said. So for me, it's only Jimmy Butler or Ariza in play. I don't like Bam's lower ceiling recently.
Yeah.
And I like some of the other centers here better. So it's potentially pay up for Butler. Ariza, I think, is a solid value still. With Boston, I'm just concerned about how they're going to react to this Jaylen Brown news. I'm as optimistic as anyone, but I just don't think they can win the title without Jaylen Brown. And I think that's going to be a rough pill to swallow. Now, I mean, they're very talented still. Fournier is a nice replacement to have that score, and they could win a series for sure, maybe even two. But I just wonder how they're going to react. And it's not an easy setting to have to deal with Miami after getting that news, because they don't mess around on
No.
defense. And so Tatum, he's the guy, but he's really expensive, and Kemba's gone up too. So I just don't really want to pay for those guys against Miami's defense.
I
Fournier,
thought you bled green, man. Where's the green blood?
oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. But
It's just tough. I know it's
yeah,
sobering losing Brown. It really is.
yeah. Fournier got hot against these guys last game. Man, that
Yeah.
was impressive. He's a decent price on DraftKings.
Streak shooter.
Streak shooter. So probably won't go there. Tristan Thompson, actually, I have some interest in, especially on DraftKings. He's 4,600. Should get 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But this is borderline pass for me, just
Wow.
because it's Miami and because of what Boston is dealing with.
Very interesting. I think we can get some guys from this game at low ownership, which is nice and sneaky though, too.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah.
All right. The other 7:30 game is Clippers and Raptors. Two teams heading in the opposite direction this year.
Fast.
Very quickly. The Raptors now officially eliminated, and they've got all these guys sitting: OG Anunoby, Siakam, Van Vliet, Lowry, Hood. Question mark for Boucher. And
Yeah.
with the Clippers, Ibaka and Coffee are still out. Now, Clippers big favorites here, 12 points, 220.5 total. We know that the Raptors are packing it in. How about Kawhi Leonard at 8,300 or 8,400? Talk about a buy low situation. Probably the lowest price you'll see him at for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Just wanted to mention it because I wasn't really planning on targeting him or any of these Clippers in this matchup. But if he and the thing about Kawhi is that his minutes have been a little bit better here recently as he's worked back in the lineup. He's gotten over 30 minutes. So while he's out there, he could smash and pay that off. Paul George is cheap on FanDuel, but not overly interested in the Clippers here because I do think they have a pretty solid chance of winning this one easily and not really having to push their guys. They are in third. They could be looking to move up here, but I don't think they're going to need to push their guys to the limit to get the win.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in Toronto with the value opportunities opening up. I think Flynn and Trent should be the starting backcourt, and they're attractive. Trent, especially on FanDuel, he's only 4,900. Birch is a value center I'm looking at, and then we'll have to see how they finish out the lineup. It could be Yuta Watanabe. He's very cheap. We've got Bembury in the rotation. Jalen Harris.
Yeah.
He's getting a real look here. He got 29 minutes in the last game, 16, 6, and 4. Very cheap on DraftKings, 3,100. So you could look at one of those guys. I think I'll probably end up with at least one Raptor because of these prices and the opportunity, maybe even two.
Right. Well, this is interesting. I have a little bit different take here. I mean, we've all been adjusting to teams that have given up and sitting their top 17 guys. And generally, everybody races to those teams like Houston recently and grabs two or three guys. So half their roster almost is built on the second flight of guys, which, it pays off a ton. We've seen it with Martin and all kinds of different guys. However, in this, I feel a little differently this game. I think the three or four guys that Toronto has on their bench, and I'm guessing it's Flynn, Trent, Watanabe, Johnson, and Burt starting. And then they, like you mentioned, some of those guys, they have about four guys on the bench. I see Nurse, since they've given up, I see all nine guys getting a bunch of time and mixing up and matching. And I think the Clippers are just so much better. I think they will get out to a lead. They won't play their guys full minutes. Clippers can't do anything but move either third or fourth or fifth. They're not going to catch. I'm sorry, third or fourth. They can't catch really the Suns, and they're not going to fall down below the Mavs. So I don't think they really care which spot they finish in, and I can't imagine that they're going to extend any of their guys in a game like this. Plus, there's some of these guys, we could go to and say, do we, want to give these guys a shot? But Trent's going to have to face Paul George defense. Somebody's going to have to face Kawhi defense. It just seems like a scary game. And I would assume you're going to have all kinds of people with a couple of Raptors in their lineup. You're going to see high ownership on Flynn, Trent, and Birch. You'll get a bunch of value seekers on Watanabe. And I'm just not willing to take the risk. And I think I'm hoping that the edge of fading this game completely will give us a heads up.
Okay.
All right, next one on the board is 8 o'clock game also. Philadelphia 76ers and Indiana Pacers. Indiana is second on the second night of a back-to-back. Philly's 6.5-point favorite, a big fat 234, Andrew. So 234 happens to be the biggest number, so I win the ticket draw today again. And right now for Philly, we have Korkmaz out, Thibault out, and Embiid the wonderful questionable tag. So, Embiid will have to have his lunch, go through warm-ups, shoot around. It'll be drug out and, like Doc does until probably the very end to find out if the guy's going to play or not. And, to me, it just seems like a perfect spot to sit the big fella. I've planned on him being out today. They've got a big 3-game lead for first place overall in the East. I don't see why they want to even mess with that. They're not going to catch Utah for best record. They're a full 3 behind that. So, it just doesn't make sense why Philly would want to push this. And so I think Embiid's out, which, gives you a little bit of different look at this. I think that in that scenario, Dwight Howard is playable. He's been smashing lately. When he does get minutes, he really produces and he's cheap. So there's a consideration there. Tobias Harris has been in a groove. You could look at him a little bit. So that's where I'm looking initially. And then on the Indiana side, man, they are in just shambles. I mean, have you read some of the stuff behind the scenes?
Yeah, heard a thing or two.
Yeah, they're having locker room problems. We've had a coach and player issue. They, supposedly cleared that up, but it's just mass mayhem there. And I guess there's, it's just not going well. And they have shown it on the court. They're not playing the level of ball, that they should. And, the thing that makes this game wanting to have some exposure here is they're 10th and 5th, Philly and Indiana, in pace. So there's a lot of pace in this game. And, Indiana needs to win. But the defense, man, Philly's second and Indiana's 12th. But again, with Embiid out, that's if he's out and he's just questionable, that changes everything, for their defense. Indiana right now is sitting in a position where they're in 9th. But, they still could move up a spot or down a spot. Very unlikely that the Bulls can catch them. Indiana would have to lose every game, and Chicago would have to win every game left. So, they're still in scramble mode trying to pull it together. And I'm not sure that they're hitting their stride. Maybe it's because Turner's out and different guys like that, but they're still in the same scenario, with Brogdon. We don't know what his status is for this game. And then Jeremy Lamb as well. And we already know Turner's out. And so they're going to be shorthanded as they have been. And, Karis LeVert's been a stud, but he's going to get guarded, by Simmons for a good portion of the game, more than likely. You can go cheaper with a guy like McDermott, but he's probably going to get tough D from Danny Green. Brissett's leveled off now, but his price is still up. And, Sabonis has been the guy that, he's been the poor man's Westbrook for big men. I mean, he's just been killing every slate.
21 and 20 last night.
I know. He's just been on fire, and it's hard to ignore. But I'll tell you, if Embiid happens to play, that's trouble for Sabonis a bit. And I don't think Dwight Howard's a bad defender, man. He gets into you and bodies you and block shots. But Sabonis has to be in a player pool, but he's so expensive that you got to shift your lineup if you really want to go there. So as of now, Sabonis is just below the cut line for me, but I am tempted. And then, like I say, maybe Philadelphia with Harris or Howard, but, it's just for me, the highest game on the slate at 234. I just don't feel super comfortable about it until we get that Embiid news and things can shuffle out.
Yeah, if Embiid's out, then I like Dwight Howard for all the reasons you mentioned. Great price. So that'll be a key guy for me. Otherwise, you could go with the value here with Seth Curry on DraftKings or Danny Green on either site. Good price, mid 4K range. They both have been shooting well, playing well.
Yep.
Other than that, I'm going to pass Philly. And then with Indiana, I agree. LeVert and Sabonis playing great, but just out of the cut line because of those prices and this defense. So maybe a value guy with T.J. McConnell or one of these guys off the bench. Keelan Martin was crazy, career high yesterday. Justin
That was
Holiday
nuts.
getting good minutes. He's in the 3K range. But really, it's all about Embiid and Dwight Howard for me here. And then otherwise pass because this next game, Coach, is one that I'm more excited about. Brooklyn and Chicago, 232 total. Brooklyn favored by 5.5 on the road. It is a front end of a back-to-back for them. We've got good pace here. We've got the awesome offense of Brooklyn, their bad defense, Chicago average defensively. So pretty good game environment. We have, in terms of news, Bruce Brown questionable, and then Tice and Troy Brown Jr. questionable on the Chicago side. Now, a little surprised with the big minutes for the studs for Brooklyn last game against Denver. KD played 41, Kyrie played 39, and they're in second place, trying to stay there and get home court for that potential second round matchup against Milwaukee. So I'm looking at Kyrie and KD here as potential pay up options against an average defense, a solid pace. Joe Harris on FanDuel is 3,900, and he's a guy that I don't usually play when there's two studs for Brooklyn who are playing, but that's a little cheap to be ignored in my book. Blake Griffin is stepping up a little bit. He's playable in my book. And that's about it for me on Brooklyn side, but I do like this game. And you could run it back with Levine or Vucevic. They're pushing. They're in 11th. They've got to keep winning here, and they're playing well. Vucevic, expensive, but he's had 8 straight double doubles, and most of them he's getting 14 or 15 rebounds. I mean, he's a monster lately.
He really is.
And then Levine, he's trending back up with his minutes. He's pretty expensive on DraftKings, but 8,600 on FanDuel is another way you could get exposure to this game. We know that guards, wings like Levine can really smash against Brooklyn. So I wouldn't mind one or two of these studs, and hope that these guys play hard and fast here for their positioning.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting game. I mean, Chicago, they lose one game, they're done. So they're basically in a single elimination mode. So they're going to get all their guys playing as much as they can. I'm very disappointed. I thought with the moves they made at the All-Star break, they'd be a team to watch and they'd at least get into that play-in tournament. So very disappointing finish to the season for them, without question. As far as Brooklyn goes, Kyrie and Durant are the two guys you have to look at immediately and really can't afford both. But, I'm actually leaning slightly towards Kyrie here just because I really don't respect the Kobe-Zach backcourt defense from Chicago.
Yep.
And like you said, I think this is important for Brooklyn because that one game difference between second and third between Milwaukee will do exactly what you said. It will determine if they both get to that next round, the second round of the playoffs, they'd have home court advantage. So that's important. So both teams have something to play for. And, I like this game better than the last game, even though it's a little lower in the over-under. I think this game gets up and down and both teams play tough. I'm looking at Kyrie for sure. I'm so sour on Joe Harris. I mean, he's $3,900 for a reason. He has games where he plays 35 minutes and gets 12 DFS points. I mean, doesn't the ball bounce your way a few times? I mean, come on, man. So I'm disappointed in him. I'm not going back there. I don't want really any part of the whole Blake Griffin, Claxton, Jordan, who the hell knows, Jeff Green. I mean, it's just mayhem at the bigs and very risky. A key thing for me in this game is Daniel Tice. If Daniel Tice sits, I really like Thaddeus Young because he's going to have almost no ownership. He just gets stocks. He gets everything when he's in there. He just needs those extended minutes. So I want to see how that goes. I'm definitely considering Vuk at center. I mean, he's been on a roll. He's gone, it's been a little quiet. And it's not like, when Levine was out, he did really well. But even with Levine back, it's his usage and output does not sync that much. He's very similar in even with Levine back. The guy that gets smashed is Kobe White, so I'm not going to play him. But I think Vuk is highly in play for me. Zach Levine's price has now gotten to the point where it's very tempting. But I'm not real thrilled with the idea that they may start Bruce Brown and Bruce Brown guards him because he will dog him. So as of right now, it could be two big pay up guys for me. If the slate was to lock now, I'd go Kyrie and Vuk. And should be a fun game, though.
Excellent.
All right, we go to the Dallas Mavericks against the Memphis Grizzlies. And we've got the first night of a back-to-back for Dallas. I need to get this Luka news, man. I should be the man that's on top of this. Let's see here. I'm going to look this up and make sure that at some point in this show I give the Mavs beat writer update here. But that sort of has everything to do with everything. The minutes, etc., on what's going to happen in this game with those guys. For Dallas, they're sitting dead tied with Portland. They're both 2 games ahead of the Lakers, but LeBron's back tonight, so they could finish with a flurry. And the death sentence of those 3 teams are who gets stuck in that 7 through 10 playoff. So Dallas wants to win. If Luke is in, he's going to go hard. Kristaps, Softy, Porzingis sits again tonight. We may see him tomorrow on the second night of the back-to-back. But really, if Dallas can just pull one more win together, they should be not in that 7 through 10 deal. So they need to come out and get it done. Memphis, is in that situation where they're right in the heart of that whole deal with the 7 through 10. I mean, they're 1 game behind Golden State, a couple of games ahead of San Antonio and the Pelicans, and the Kings still haven't been eliminated. So, they need to win as well. And I think they're going to come at it and play hard with their guys. So, I personally in this game, I'm not going to want to pay up to the very top for Luka, and I want to get all this information I can. I'll update it on our Twitter and in our Discord when we hear anything else about Luka. But a couple of guys you have to consider here is Dylan Brooks will guard Luka, so that's one thing that is a concern right off the bat for me. But the guy that may get some open shots out of it is the one that is unconscious lately, and that's Tim Hardaway Jr. He is just on a shooting streak like you wouldn't believe. So he's playing great ball. He's a possibility, of a play at a decent price. But that's the only guy on the Dallas side I'm looking at. What I like is on the Memphis side. I think the two guys that could cause big trouble are Triple J and Joe Val. And I like bigs against Dallas, but they've got double bigs basically. And that's a big concern for me. So there's the possibility, I'm not sure yet, but financially you can do it with Joe Val and Triple J. His minutes have gone up. Last game was the first game he started since coming back. He could get 28, 30 minutes and do some serious damage. And he'll probably get Finney Smith defense, which isn't bad, but Jackson's just a lot bigger than Finney Smith, much bigger. And Joe Val's going to get that whole rotation of centers with Cauley Stein and Powell. Maybe we have a Boban sighting because Joe Val's a big body. But Valanciunas has played great. We just always have to keep the damn guy out of foul trouble because we've played him and he smashed a couple of times. He got in foul trouble, and that really stings. So going big with the Memphis guys, possibly a little Tim Hardaway to ride that hot streak of shooting, and more than likely that's going to be my exposure here.
Okay, yeah. Not a huge game for me. Front end for Dallas, second night for Memphis, which is really the key thing. They had some guys who played decent minutes, but not really overall. And so that's my concern with a guy like Joe Val. How many minutes does he play? Not to mention the foul trouble. Dylan Brooks, 4,800 on FanDuel is playable for me. That's my favorite price tag on Memphis. With Dallas, THJ, he's rolling. You could look there. Brunson always seems to hit value. And then Powell, 3 out of 4 games, over 34 fantasy points on DraftKings. 4,200 over there is playable for me. A little steep on FanDuel, 56. But I like him on DraftKings potentially. But if Dwight Howard is going to be out there without Embiid, then Dwight Howard's my favorite value center tonight. So I do think these teams will push. I just don't like it as much as, say, Brooklyn and Chicago, that game. So it's more likely a one-off value play for me.
Makes sense.
All right, we have one 9 o'clock game. It's Orlando and Milwaukee. Again, two teams going in the opposite direction. Orlando, one of those 5 teams with 20 to 21 wins. So you figure they're gonna continue to try to lose, and they're not gonna have to try very hard against Milwaukee, who's in third and lost last night to San Antonio, but they should get back on track tonight. They're favored by 14, 229.5 total. And same crew out for Orlando. Ross, Ennis, Okeke, MCW, Otto Porter Jr. We've got Wendell Carter Jr. questionable. And then with Milwaukee, as of right now, showtime here. I'm not seeing any news, but stay tuned. That's the key for me, is if we get news with Milwaukee, somebody sits here back-to-back, it should be an easy win against Orlando, then you get somebody who comes into play, like a Portis potentially. As of right now, though, I'm not planning to play anybody from Milwaukee, even though it's an awesome matchup. Their starters played between 23 and 32 minutes last night, and I think it'll be similar if the starters come back again here. So for now, I'm going to pass Milwaukee. With Orlando, I really didn't like how things trended in that last game with minutes. Really balanced for the starters and the subs. RJ Hampton got 29 minutes, but he's in the 6K range now. Your man Brazdeikis is really the only guy I care about today with Orlando.
He's finally getting some shout out. I love it.
Yeah, his last 4 games, listen to these minutes. 32, 30, 24, and then 35. And he's only 3,600 on both sites. So he's my favorite value play out of this game. And right now, he's really the only guy I'm looking at.
Wow. Who'd ever think, DFS, you never know who's going to be.
2 weeks ago, who would have predicted that?
Yeah, and I love Brazdeikis, whatever, against Giannis.
Yeah. Right.
It is a crazy, crazy NBA. I'm with you. I think of all the teams, Orlando really doesn't want to win because they're in the most rebuild mode, like Oklahoma City, them in Oklahoma City, of where they just got rid of everybody. They've got all kinds of young guys. They want the top pick. So I'm not, Mo Bamba really stung everybody last time. I was lucky to avoid that, but you could see it coming because they don't want to win. And, Bamba definitely gives them a better chance to win. So I don't trust the minutes for Bamba or Wagner, certainly not Bacon or Harris, or any of the guys that have more experience. And even Cole Anthony, it's Drew Holiday, for crying out loud. So I'm gonna fade Orlando, even my Iggy guy. I just don't feel comfortable that anybody's gonna get enough minutes to make a difference. And since Milwaukee's so good defensively, they're fourth in the league in defense. It just doesn't. It just looks like you got to sit there and bite your nails if you try to get one of these guys through. On the Milwaukee side, I think they want to win this game. I mean, they're one game behind Brooklyn for that home court. Brooklyn doesn't have any layups here in these last few games. So I think Milwaukee will play their guys, and I think they'll get out to a big lead. The problem again is going to be, you're going to feel good if you have maybe Giannis or Middleton or whatever. At halftime, you're going to feel great, but who says they're going to play much in the second half? Coach Bud likes to rest his guys, and I don't see how they don't smash Orlando. So unfortunately, I just don't trust the minutes in the second half by Milwaukee. I think they use a lot of bench guys. But none of the bench guys elevate enough for me, because I do think that they want to win this game and will play enough of their starters. So as tempted as I am here, I'm probably going to pass this game altogether.
All right.
All right, we have 3 10 o'clock games, our after-hour slate. I love when it's 3 instead of 2, and I know you don't. You like it 2 instead of 3, but that's why we're so different, and we both have different outlooks and both can win. First game of the 3-game after-hours 10 o'clock slate. Phoenix and Golden State. Golden State on the second night of a back-to-back. 5.5-point favorites for Phoenix, 230 over-under. Phoenix 25th in pace. Big pace-up game for them as Golden State is third. But here's the problem, 8th and 5th defense. We have 2 top 8 defenses, and Cam Johnson has already been ruled out. Looks like Paul Booker, Bridges, Craig, and Ayton like normal, and Curry, Wiggins, Bazemore, Green, and Looney. So interesting game here. Certainly not one of my favorites on the slate. You've got a situation here where, is everybody going to play full minutes? That is the $1 million question. Phoenix more than likely is going to finish second to the Jazz. I know they can push a little bit, but the Clippers are too far behind them. They have to make up a couple of games against the Jazz, which I doubt they will. So I don't think Phoenix, beats up Chris Paul. I was going to say Cliff Paul. Chris Paul or Booker or even Ayton. I think that they'll, Monty sees the big picture a lot better than that. Now, Golden State side of things, it's a little different. They're 2 games behind the Lakers for 7th. It looks like the Golden State's going to be in this 7 through 10 play-in. I mean, it's that simple. They've already clinched that, but where they finish in that 7 through 10 is a question. I mean, it's not like elimination or bust, so it's not lay your cards on the table. So I'm not sure on the second night of a back-to-back how much they want to push Curry. For his price, I'm not going to go there, especially with the great defense of Paul and the backcourt of Phoenix. You can go second flight here. Wiggins has played steady ball. Kent Bazemore's really paid his number. He'll have some people, because Looney had his double-doubles 3 in a row or whatever for the first time in his career, and probably the last. You'll have some suckers jump on him, but I think he's a trap. Draymond on, again, a second night of a back-to-back. He played hard last night. It does not look like an exciting game. I will say, though, that Mikal Bridges, man, he is quietly having a hell of a season, and nobody ever talks about him, but his mid-price is always, a possibility, especially with Cam Johnson being out, not soaking up any of those wing minutes. You could look there. And I've got to mention, just because I know he's on your Andrew top 5 of all times, Torrey Craig. Mm-hmm. He's a sneaky, cheap play that usually gets his number. But not liking this game much, Andrew.
I don't either. Golden State had to play hard to win against Utah last night, and prices are solid. No great bargains there. So on the main slate, I'm planning to pass Golden State because of that and the great matchup or tough matchup. And then with Phoenix, with Cam Johnson and then Nader also out still, you've seen Crowder pick up some minutes and Frank Kaminsky also picking up some minutes. And he
Frank the Tank.
Yeah, he cut into Torrey Craig in that last game. So to me, you could look at one of those value plays, Crowder, Kaminsky, especially on the after hour slate. I'll probably have one of those guys. Maybe not on the main slate, but it's one of those types of real deep value plays. Or we continue on here to the next one, which is Oklahoma City and Sacramento, 224.5 total. The Kings favored by 11. They need to keep winning here, just clinging to an opportunity. OKC in that group with 20 to 21 wins. They're going to keep losing. Just doing it with different guys. Today, Maledon is out. Question marks for Ty Jerome and Dort.
Dort's questionable every damn game. Yep. What is he? He think he's LeBron now or an AD?
Yeah, I think that's more of the OKC side. I read something recently where he really pushed to play one of those games. So he wants to be out there, but they know that with him out there, they have a better chance of winning. So they're limiting him. And then Sacramento, we have Fox still out, Barnes doubtful, Hassan Whiteside available, and Hield probable. Now, they played the other day here, and Sacramento crushed them by 28. And I think it'll probably be an easy win here. Again, on the OKC side, I really think this is another team, sort of like Orlando, that you really have to tread cautiously here. The minutes are really spread out evenly. So could Ty Jerome potentially, let's say, if he starts and Dort is out, could he hit value in his 24 minutes? Maybe. That's probably the only guy I would look at. Or you could look at Moses Brown, same thing. Under 5K, I like the matchup for him, but 24 to 26 minutes. And then Deck, he's the one guy who got big minutes last game, 31. They've really been giving him a good look.
He's still a nice player, man. Yeah. I watched him. He's pretty darn good.
Yeah, definitely. He can pay off that price tag. So those are the three guys I would consider. Sacramento side, DeLon Wright. I mean, they really now think that he is the real substitute for Fox in terms of his pricing. Up over 8K range. I mean, he had two awesome games, so I don't blame the sites.
That price is retarded, though. But, I mean, $8,000.
Yeah, it's a little too much for me here on this slate. I'd rather go with Terrence Davis off the bench, 5,300, getting good minutes, playing well. Or Harkless, he's still a decent price. And that's it. Despite it being really great on paper, over the course of the season, these teams have built up the pace rankings of 6th and 8th. Defense, they're 24th and 30th. So you look at this and you say, I got to get a bunch of exposure here. But again, last week of the regular season, OKC splitting minutes, all these guys out for Sacramento, but the price tags are up. It could end up being another, maybe a one value type play or a pass.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think you're right on the nuts there. I mean, Oklahoma City and Orlando, you're going to see, and it's going to be tempting, but you're going to see me today and probably every game the rest of the way. They only have 2 or 3 left until through Sunday. I doubt I'm going to roster anybody from either one of those teams. Those are the two teams that have 100% mailed it in, do not want to win. And it's not that the players aren't trying to play hard. It's just the management is going to not get the guys in the best position to try to win a game, because it's very odd to see so many teams with almost dead tied for the worst record. And I just don't trust the rotation whatsoever for Oklahoma City, and just auto fade it and not be tempted. Sacramento, I agree. I think they'll kill them. I'm not sure how long of a run they get with a decent lead. They're in single elimination mode, though. They know one loss, they're done for the season as far as the playoffs go. But, it's tough. I refuse to pay $8,000 plus for DeLon Wright. It's just, we paid like $3,600 for him at one point. And I'm just not going to go there. Hield has paid off quite a bit, but he's not 100%. Harkless is a super cheap play that can be a boom or bust guy for you, but more GPP-ish. Bagley, he's played some ball. He's finishing with a rush here, but he does get some decent interior defense against Baisley, Roby, Brown. All those guys are long and a little bit tough inside. So I don't think it's going to be, a picnic for him. And Holmes, I'm not sure minutes wise, with his backups back, if he's really worth it. So pretty simple for me, Andrew. I'm going to pass and move on to this last game.
And then you're going to spend probably half your roster on the last one, right?
You think so? I don't know. There's a possibility.
You love to attack these defenses.
I know it. It's the New York Knicks and LA Lakers, and you got a 1-4 defense. So, yeah, you're right. I'm going to own about 6 guys in this game. Yeah, it's interesting here because, you have a situation where you got great Ds, but you got LeBron back. So how long is LeBron going to play? They're really trying desperately to win out this week and get out of that play-in tournament. So if Portland loses and they win, they're only 1 game behind them. So the Lakers want to win. They're going to play their guys. The Jack Black thing, we want a Winnie, as our Discord posts all the time, the GIF in our Discord. But yeah, I mean, that makes the Lakers interesting in this game just because of that. But, you've got the Knicks on the other side that are sitting 4th. They could drop to 5th. They're only a half a game ahead of Atlanta. So they also want to win because that can, be a difference depending on how things break out in the playoffs here of who gets a home court advantage. So I think it'll be a competitive game. I think they'll play their guys. But, as you alluded to, you got Lakers by 4.5. It's only 213. So you got the lowest total by a lot. And you've got the slowest team in the league in the Knicks, 15th for the Lakers. They don't play extremely fast. And as I mentioned, but it can't go overstated, is you've got the top number 1 and 4 defenses. So it makes it very, very difficult. Right now, we've got Burks and questionable, quickly doubtful, and LeBron and 60 other guys probable. So, it looks to me as Peyton, Bullock, Barrett, Randall, Noel against Caruso, Pope, Kuzma, Davis, and Drummond, except Caruso will go to the bench, and it will be LeBron in there is what I think will happen. But, let's see how this plays out. The situation with Schroeder being out changes things a bit. If they do keep Caruso in the lineup, I don't think he will. I think he'll come off the bench. I think they'll just let LeBron run the point. If he's going to play, he's going to play. And the fact that he's not questionable, that he's probable, makes you, got to think he's going to be in. So where do you go here, man? I just, the nice thing for me is I haven't had a ton of buy-ups, so I'm going to be able to fit some of those early, more expensive guys in there. But I don't know if I can pull the trigger here. It's going to be hard on this after hours slate because their teams are slow and less possessions. Julius Randle's always tempting, and he gets triple pumped up to play against the Lakers because they're the team that really gave up on him first. But it's AD for crying out loud, in that defense of the Lakers. So that's hard to pay that kind of money for a guy facing it. I mean, you might get him at lower ownership. I'll probably fall into the Julius Randle deal in the after hours, but I don't think I have the courage on the main slate. You can go for some cheaper mid-level plays. Caldwell Pope's played more. You've got Noel against Drummond, so that's sort of a wash as far as, defending and just grabbing rebounds. So there's not a lot of guys that jump out to me. I'm not going to pay up for LeBron. I think you'd have to really be pushing it to do that because he's going to be on a minutes limit, especially he came back last time and got re-hurt. So 20 minutes maybe, 25 because it's LeBron? I don't know. But just don't really want to go there either. So I doubt I'm going to have anybody in this game for the main slate, but I'll consider a few of the value guys and Julius in that after hours. But it's going to be a tough, hard fought game. But you could see this one be 100 to 92 kind of thing.
Very easily, yeah. And I agree. I think it'll be hard fought, but on an 11 game slate, I'm not ready to play anybody here. Randall, his price is getting more attractive here all of a sudden, dipping down towards 9,000. So it's tempting, but probably not in the main slate, just the after hours slate, and we'll see how the lineup shakes out for the Lakers. And then on the after hours slate, if Burks and Quickly are out again, you could look at Rose. He's really been playing well lately.
He has been.
So that's it. That's the 11 game slate. Hope everybody enjoyed that. If you're listening and watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll continue these 7-day-a-week podcasts through the regular season and through the postseason. So hope you'll continue to tune in with us here. We have a lot of fun breaking down the games. Join us as a member as well. If you haven't yet, dfscoachtalk.com. Grab whichever length of membership you want. We give out our full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo, Coach's Clipboard on DraftKings. We cover the main slate and the after-hours slate. It's a lot of fun, a lot of lineups, and we're rolling towards a big finish here to the season. So any questions, reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. You can follow the coach at JOESARVADI, and you can find me at Language Olympic. So thank you for tuning in on behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team. I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.